Previously on Edtech Mondays, we explored how Uganda is strengthening digital readiness in schools, equipping teachers, expanding access and preparing learners for a digital future.
These people have a way of acquiring skills when they know they are going to gain something.
Yes.
No one has taught them how to do it.
Uganda has one of the youngest populations in the world, millions of them. At a percentage that where everyone would understand that out of the 10 individuals standing in the country, 8 of them are below the age of 35. Very ambitious young people who look out for opportunities. Where are these opportunities?
But even as progress is made within classrooms, millions of young people remain outside them.
Today we come to the National ICT Innovation Hub to look out for the innovations that are pushing the out-of-school young people to find solutions to learn and to prosper. This edition, March 2026, let's sit down with our panelists to have the conversations that will take us to another level of addressing young people's problems. This is Edtech Mondays.
Edtech Mondays is brought to you by the Mastercard Foundation in partnership with NTV Uganda. Joining me on the panel this episode are Esther Nansubuga Arinda, Program Manager at Groundbreaker Talents, with extensive experience in developing and managing digital skills programs for young people across Uganda. Also on the show, Silva Kasozi, Country Director of Light for the World Uganda, a leading voice in disability inclusion and equitable access to education and opportunity. And Dr. Mutyaba Daniel, Vice President of the ICT Teachers Association of Uganda, an educationist and curriculum expert with deep experience in digital learning and competence-based education. Together, we explore a critical question: how can Uganda expand access to education and opportunity for out-of-school youth through technology and beyond?
What are the contributive factors to the huge numbers that we see of out-of-school youth?
If you look at a report, I think by the Equal Opportunities Commission that they did, I don't quite remember the year, they indicated that for young people between 15, I think, to about, no, 16 to about 25, 72.9% dropped out of school, right? And then 9.8% have never gone to school. Then for children 5 to 12, 43.6% have dropped out of school. Now, if you go back to the figure, for those who dropped out of school between 16 to 25, that's about 4.1 million out of the 5.5 million. That is the number according to the last census. That's the population of Kampala and Wakiso put together. Now, where is the problem? First of all, attitudes. I normally want to speak from a point of view of experience. The place I work at, 25% of our staff are people with disability, and across the board, various types. Why? Because their parents and their guardians believed in them and gave them the exposure to education. But you also have to look at it the other way. Look at, for example, the vocational education or the skilling as is. In my day, that was education for failures, right? So much so that if a child didn't go through school the formal way, and they were told, probably move to technical school, they would feel offended, and sometimes they would actually, prefer to be out. Well, now it's probably the in thing.
So I'll bring this to the question that surrounds the out-of-school youth before we get into other areas that need to facilitate for them. Esther, what do you think are the contributive factors to such huge numbers as is put out all the statistics and other statistics? Because, the young people we know are the majority. So if their numbers increasingly are being identified and these people are jumping out of school, they're pushed out of school, they're not going to school. Let's look at the contributive factors in your area.
Okay, with the experience I've had over the years, I would look mostly into financial constraints. We do understand that education can be, good quality education can be expensive. And most Ugandans, or some of the Ugandans, wouldn't really afford the kind of education they would, even, the list, because I've also had interaction where someone has to pay like 5,000 a term and they can't afford that, like deep down in the villages. So first it's financial, then the second one would be looking at survival against, this opportunity or something. Because if you go back to the homes we grew up from, you as a child or a person in a home, you are free labor, I would say.
Yes.
So a parent would look at it in a way that, for you going to school this whole term, but we have beans to plant, in the other period of time, then they would take you for free labor and you won't be able to go to school. So those are some of the things. And then the other would be people are not more like informed, like what is it like for someone to be educated? And when you go deep down in the villages, that's where I'm looking at. They're not really informed that, someone can actually come out and be, be an Esther, be a program manager, because they haven't seen much of that. So they are not informed, but also they are financially constrained, but also they are looking at the opportunity cost on their end.
At the National Curriculum Development Center,
Yes.
I do believe the new curriculum is catering for they that are already under education.
Yeah.
Are there specific areas that are pulling in the out-of-school youth, the young ones who are out of school? Is there an area where we think that these ones also need to be catered for in an area like that? And also, what is your mind about, like you called it earlier, OSI?
Yeah. National Council, through the Ministry of Education, decided to cater to cover those gaps somehow by introducing in a curriculum that can cater for one, as we are training the learners, these learners with disabilities, like the way Sylvester has said, work on their attitude. Because attitude changes things. So we work on their attitude. We work on, because if you work on someone whose attitude, this person is able to see things differently. So we train the teachers to be able to be positive towards these people. And in the end, they are able to work on their attitude and they are able to see things in the right perspective.
I will go back to you, Esther, and I'll start with you, Esther. Let's bring in the element of the girls who are out of school. Where are the innovations? What do we need to do? Where are these particular innovations that can expand access of education to these young girls who are out of school?
We have so many innovations and we just haven't put them to work. Where I work, it's already an innovation for the young woman to take on that opportunity. What Refactor is doing on the 10X problem, 10X program, that is already an innovation for the young woman to take on these opportunities and be able to either become an entrepreneur or even be employable at the end of the day. There are so many other different hubs like Outbox that are doing Women in Technology Uganda. So they are there, but we just need to sensitize and inform the public that the innovations are here and they are here to stay. We have to, get into it and use them.
I'll speak a little bit about what the government is doing, and that's on the side of what I would say inclusive finance. One of the things that the government has done is, as part of their social protection, there is what they call the special grant, which is basically a grant that can be accessed specifically by people with disability through groups. And then we have what we call the PDM, which is the parish development model. 10% of that grant, wherever it goes, is for people with disabilities through their groups that they've put together to be able to run their businesses. And I've seen this work, at least through other projects where we have implemented programs, because we've recommended these groups of young people with disability to get these grants.
I'd like to get into the area of policy and how policy can be able to help us see innovations. And I'll take this to you, through you, Daniel. How should government's involvement come through to see that these innovations are realized, and what are some of the innovations you have ahead?
I want to start from the perspective of the curriculum. Because through the government, they have come up with a competence-based curriculum. And I'm also happy that it started from O-level, it's now crossing to the university. Now, under competence-based curriculum, one of the key emphases the government is ensuring is that there must be projects. And the ministry instructed all schools to make sure that as they are training, their learners are able to produce projects or to come up with projects. At the level of senior 2, senior 3, actually, it is mandatory that they must have done at least some project. In that, just in case this learner happens to drop out,
they have a particular skill.
They have a particular skill that can help them survive. For example, let me give you an example in entrepreneurship, even in ICT. If I've been teaching, let me start with the ICT. If I've been teaching maybe desktop publishing, it is a topic. Before we used to just teach, go through, for purposes of what? Learning and passing. Today we emphasize the fact that this learner is able to acquire the skills in that even if he drops at the level of senior 2 or senior 3, can be able to cross the job market and can design something. Desktop publishing is helping learners to design publications like certificates, flyers, and those other kind of things.
Let's bring in the technology question. We are trying to find innovations. Innovation and technology, in this day and age, work hand in hand. Like there is no way you can separate the two. Let's start with the ladies and girls. Women embracing technology as they learn, so that if at all there is a circumstance of being out of school, they're tech savvy.
Yes. I wouldn't give the exact statistics when it comes to the number of women in tech at the moment, but with there's so many drive and there's so many initiatives that are going on, I do believe and know that there are more women taking on tech roles at the moment, and they are able to use technology as they should be. And of course, there's still a big number out there that are still more like in a cage, that they can't use technology like a man should. But that's where there's so many innovations are coming in and so many initiatives where it is very recommended for that, like the percentage of women participating in a particular initiative is way higher than the male. Yes. So, and on the same point, that's why Groundbreaker is doing so. We are creating this safe space so that women can freely express and use these gadgets and get the confidence that they need before they go out to, to the outside world.
Assistive tools are very expensive. Technology that is being used by persons with disabilities is quite expensive. Creating hubs with all the access that they need might, in one way or the other, impede innovations that might expand access for persons with disabilities, but also at the same time who are out of school. Help me bridge that.
So I think you hinted on one of the major issues, which is technology. And technology, again, is both hardware, software. And I'll give very basic examples. Look at things like Braille. A Braille embosser is anything from 1 million to 9 million.
It is true.
Now, you're already deprived of education, deprived of means of work. How are you going to afford that? Assistive technology, we need to understand that this is not, it's not luxury, if I'm to put it that way. Government should be able to provide some concessions on some of these things, knowing that they're very expensive, but the people who actually need them cannot afford them because they are not luxury. You get the point. Then the other thing is, of course, training, because it's one thing having the technology and quite another using it. But lastly, and perhaps most important, is when we are developing solutions that are tailored for persons with disability, can we ensure that they are part of the co-creation? Because if you develop what you think are solutions soft in nature or hard for people with disability, without having them involved, you'll unfortunately develop a white elephant.
How do we build inclusive pathways to employment and opportunity?
It starts with the policy. Teachers have been emphasized to teach using what we call adaptive learning, to use adaptive learning approaches and inclusivity approaches, whereby under inclusivity, they are emphasizing that learners should be able, teachers should not leave any learner behind. So in the due course, the learner is able to catch up with what is happening. In the due course, the learner is able also to acquire some skills at that level, at their level. Maybe it is primary or it is secondary, lower secondary or advanced secondary, they can be able to. As the government, through, of course, the Minister of Education, they have come up with a policy where even these people who are unable to proceed to higher levels of learning, maybe they are at a level of P7, the learner can be able to branch the vocation and be able to acquire some skills, be trained in some specialized skill. You identify this learner, what he's able to do, and you advise this learner to go through. From P7, you join vocational. Even from senior 4, you join vocational. Okay. Not just waiting to finish the entire level, P7, senior 4, that you can join the higher institutions of learning. So they have also included in that, such that they can help out these learners that would have dropped out on the way.
Well, I'll take it to Esther as well. Employment and opportunity. Where are the innovations for the out of school youth, and how do they catch up with this so that they can also have that?
Well, let's continue having these conversations. Like, these conversations should continue. Like, having a conversation on these kind of opportunities, it's one way of putting it out there. But also, when we go back to involving the community or the government and all that, when we are designing policies and whatever we need to work with, we need every player in the room. We need the government there. We need the organizations. Like, everyone is part of the drive. So we need everyone in the room to drive the innovation and the technology as it needs. So I think it's all about putting the info out there and not to stop having the conversations. With my experience, I know that you can teach something today and you think someone has, grasped it. And then after 1 month, we are going back to it. So we keep putting the information out there, and also not making it really static. Things keep, changing. So we have to be very dynamic, moving with the trends.
Conversations like these are not just about ideas. They are about real lives being changed. I sat down with Daphne Nambafu, a young professional whose journey reflects how innovation is giving out-of-school youth a second chance, opening new doors for young people who once felt left behind.
It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Would you define yourself as someone who is someone who owns digital skills?
Yes. I was introduced to Groundbreaker. Someone shared a flyer. I applied, and my journey for software engineering starts like that. And for the people that do not know Groundbreaker Talents is a Ugandan German non-profit organization, and they bring in women aged 18 to 25 to learn more about tech, to get into the tech space. We all know that the tech space is mostly male-dominated. And now they're enabling the females to get into that space as well. Yeah. And this is what Groundbreaker does. It's a fully residential program. You come in with just your clothes, and the rest you leave it to them.
For how long did you go through this program?
It was a 1-year program. I took a path because we are supposed to choose what language are you doing for you to actually come up with what you really want to do. And I took a path of Python. We started with the simple foundations of what a computer is. What do you do when you get to a computer and all that? And how do I acquire them? Refactory is a is Groundbreaker's learning partner. So they're the ones that imparted the digital skills. And that's how I get into the space of learning digital skills.
Out of your experience, put words to it and help me and help someone out there who is watching, a young lady who's watching. How can digital skills help one find new doors, open new doors for them? How has it helped for you, and how can it help for the young people out of your experience and henceforth?
Okay. One thing I'm going to tell that female that is out of school and they do not know what is next, and you're scared to take a step into the digital realm, I'm telling you, do it afraid. Do it afraid. Get out of your comfort zone. You can do better. There are many opportunities for us out here, and it doesn't require you to have a skill, because you have Groundbreaker that welcomes you as you are. It means you can get into the space even without a skill, because that is what we look at. The major requirement they have, or the qualification, is: are you done with Form 4? Are you done with Form 6? Come into the space as you are. And what has really this done in my life is it has opened opportunities for me. There are many opportunities. Of course, you just select and you're like, this is the best opportunity for me, because maybe I'm growing, learning more. And when you get into that space, it's easy for you to work with different partners. Now, how do you get into that space? It's not only the digital skills that really help you, but your interpersonal skills. Can you communicate with people? Can you work in teams? Can you collaborate? Yeah. Now, we always have those tech skills, but most importantly, what are your interpersonal skills? Are you able to communicate with people? So there are many opportunities, but I should say you work on your tech skills or digital skills, but as you're working on your interpersonal skills. So we have many opportunities. That is what I can let you know. Ladies out there, out of school youths, we have many opportunities in the digital space as females. You just have to do it afraid, go for it. That is what I can call you or encourage you to do. Yeah.
Stories like Daphne's remind us that being out of school does not mean being out of options. Across Uganda, more young people are stepping forward, embracing new ways to learn and new ways to build their future. Another young woman who chose to take the step is Abel Winnie Daisy. This is her story.
My name is Abel Winnie Daisy, a recent graduate in certificate in software engineering from Groundbreaker. And being a disadvantage as a girl child, Groundbreaker taught me that I can do more as a girl child, or as someone who has dropped out. I can learn how to program, which I never thought I could, and it really inspired me. I'm really so grateful to Groundbreaker for what they did, transitioning me from someone who I used to be, that is someone who had dropped out of school, Form 6. Now here I am creating a real world, like life skills and real world projects. And it's so great. I'm so grateful for them. So the information I have out for any girl child who was like me or who is like me before, I really urge you, whenever you get a chance or opportunity, you can push yourself beyond what you see. It's not about what people say, but it's all about you searching for more and getting the answer.
You're watching NTV. Thanks very much for staying with us as we come to a conclusion. This is Edtech Mondays, brought to you by the Mastercard Foundation, to learn and to prosper. For young people, for women, inclusivity, persons with disabilities is very important. Our topic and subject of this discussion: innovations, expanding access for out-of-school youth. I'm glad we could come this far. And on the show is, of course, Sylvester Kasozi, Esther Nansonga, and Daniel Mutyaba. I'm glad you could come through the show, and thank you very much. And once again, I'll say thanks to the Mastercard Foundation. I'm Sean Chimley. I'm always glad to be here. Thanks for watching NTV.
Edtech Mondays is brought to you by the Mastercard Foundation in partnership with NTV Uganda.